Next on the Delaware Way, how to avoid being the victim of a despicable phone scam. And watch out, Geek Squad, there's competition from Delaware. This is the Delaware Way. Welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. There is a despicable phone scam that is costing Delawareans agony and sometimes money. Here to talk about that is Master Corporal Michael Austin from the Delaware State Police. He is the Public Information Officer. Thanks so much for being here, officer. I appreciate it.
Larry. Thanks for having me.
What is the scam? What happens?
Well, basically, it's an extortion scam where an unknown caller will call someone stating that they have one of their family members, and unless they meet the demands of the ransom, there will be harm come to their family.
How specific are they when they call? Do they know that there is a family member that's a son or a daughter?
We've seen both ways. It could be a cold call where they're basically just fishing and hoping that the information they put out that you do have a son or you do have a daughter that might not be able to be immediately contacted, or they can do some social media basic research to find out that, yeah, your son is in Mexico on spring break right now, so it's legitimate that they could be out of contact, and they could, have fallen into someone's custody, and they could be in true danger.
What do they ask now? How do they get money?
The mode of payment that we've seen are wire transfers, Western Union wire transfers, or prepaid credit cards. That way there's no trail, it's immediate cash. The suspects can get the cash immediately, and then it's not traceable. It's not doesn't leave a money trail per se. It's pretty much a cash transaction, and they get away with their money without having any without us having any investigative leads.
Doesn't it have to be sent or picked up somewhere?
It can be. It can be done a couple different ways. It can be sent, and a lot of times we find out that the money is sent to a foreign country where we have no jurisdiction, or if they buy prepaid credit cards, what they have the victim do, they purchase a certain amount of credit cards, prepaid cards that have an amount on them, and then they'll just have them read those numbers over the phone. So once they get access to the credit card number on that prepaid card, then they can spend it as they wish. So there's never a physical transaction.
I guess the problem with this type of crime is that many times people are embarrassed that they fell prey to it after they've already paid the money, so you never hear about it.
That's exactly right, and that's what we're finding. We had a couple people come forward, which spurred us to put out a PSA just to be aware of this scam that we've seen pop up recently in Delaware, specifically Newcastle County. Once we put that public service announcement out, we started getting phone calls and messaging via our social media saying, yes, I had one of those phone calls, or a friend of mine had those phone calls. But people, absolutely, if they experience this type of scam, they're either too embarrassed to admit that they fell prey to it, or they recognized it immediately as a scam and hung up and never thought that it was worthy of contacting the police.
It's got to be frustrating to you because in your DNA you want to stop these crimes and you want to make an arrest when possible, and that may be impossible in this case.
That's exactly right. Our investigative leads are limited just based on that it is a cyber crime, and again, a lot of it tracks back to foreign countries.
So if it comes from another country, if it comes from out of state, do you get other authorities? Do you get the FBI involved in this?
And that's where this type of scam primarily started. The FBI investigated these because it was prevalent. It's been prevalent for decades in Mexico and the U.S. southwest border states. So since it was in another country, the FBI had primary jurisdiction. Yes, but any type of crime that goes across state lines or is international, that would be followed up by the FBI.
Because I know a lot of people are thinking when they hear this conversation, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, but when they hear this conversation, they think to themselves, all right, even if I report it, what's going to be done? I'm hearing that nothing can be done. It might be somebody that's out of state and beyond your jurisdiction, but just getting all the information is probably important.
That's exactly right, and that's why we encourage people to report it to their local law enforcement, because we can start connecting dots, and there might be a local nexus to it. It might not be something that's coming from a foreign country. It might be a local ring of people who are committing this scam. And if we can connect enough dots, if there are enough similarities between the phone calls, and we can get some type of electronic information, whether it's a phone call that we can trace to an IP address.
When they call, how much money do they ask for?
It's varied. It's varied. We've heard anything from $40,000 to a few $1,000s. But that's one of the key notes where you can identify the scam very quickly if you do engage in a conversation of this type, is it will start with a very high amount. And the longer you keep them on the phone, they will negotiate down very rapidly to a number where you think, well, I could possibly do that. So that's one of the red flags that you can see that you can identify this as a scam. If in fact you do get a call, is that they will negotiate down very rapidly because they want to end this conversation very quickly. They don't want to stay on the line just for the purposes of investigations.
How long do they stay on the line? Do you know? On average, I would imagine, like you said, they want to get off like that.
Yeah, if a victim agrees to it, it's usually pretty quickly. But if the victim is onto it and they sort of slow down the process and engage in a conversation to try and vet out whether this is legitimate or not, we've actually had some victims who have had time to contact the police via another mode while they were on the phone with the actual suspect. And we had the time to actually contact the family member in question to verify that they were not in any harm.
If somebody calls them, what steps should they take? What do you want them to do?
The biggest preventative measures that we can tell people, first off, way before the call ever occurs, is to limit your social media, the information you're putting out, because this is the intelligence that these scam artists are using, getting bits and pieces of information, first names, pets' names, vacations where you're currently at, that they use against you to put some credibility to their threat. So that's the first thing, limit your social media. The second thing, prior to picking up the phone, is to make sure you have a caller ID. And if you don't know the number, even if it's a 302 area code, which some of these calls are coming from, is a 302 area code, you think it's local. If you don't see a name on there, if it's not a known person in your contact list, let it go to voicemail and pick that up. If it's an unknown number, don't answer the phone. If it's that important, they need to get in touch with you, especially if it's your family members, if it's anybody in your professional circles. They know how to get in touch with you if they really need to. If they're continuing just to call without leaving a voicemail or leaving a message, that's one, another red flag you can look at to say, this is not a legitimate call. So wait for the voicemail to see if it's a legitimate call. So make sure your contacts are in your caller ID and you know who's calling you.
So you'd prefer they not talk to them at all?
And that's, if you do pick up the phone, and we recommend that they hang up immediately. But again, the hard part is, what if there's that 1% of a chance that this is a legitimate issue? And do you really want to take that chance? They're playing on your emotions, and that's the dilemma. But I can say we have not investigated any abductions or kidnappings that initially started as a scam phone call asking for a ransom amount.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
Master Corporal Michael Austin with the Delaware State Police. He is the Public Information Officer. When we come back, a great nonprofit in the city of Wilmington, you might have seen their artwork, and your son or daughter could be involved. We'll tell you how when the Delaware Way continues.